Hey, Mask.
Oh, hey, Barnett. How was work?
Same shit, different day, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. Sorry to hear about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine, don't worry about it. Hey, listen, I wanted to talk to you about something.
Yeah, sure. What is it?
Yeah, I didn't hear you come in last night.
Oh, yeah, I was out pretty late.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, but, look, I know we have this arrangement going on, so I feel a bit awkward just straight up asking this, but
Oh, fucking Christ, man, I spit it out.
you coming home late last night, that wouldn't have anything to do with the 5 corpses in the kitchen, would it? Mask.
I'm thinking. No, it didn't have anything to do with me.
Okay. So, just so long as it wasn't you, right?
I mean, the 4 corpses in the bathroom, that was all me, but the kitchen?
Oh, Mask, you are terrible.
I'm a monster.
Salutations, Cinemaskists. I'm Darkest101, and this day was going to come around eventually. I knew a while ago that I was inevitably going to be coming back to some of my earlier reviews, back from when I was a stupid and ignorant video game reviewer. And one of the reviews I was most looking forward to coming back to giving a fresh new look at was the 2010 version of Splatterhouse. You know, I probably shouldn't have drawn attention to the original review of Splatterhouse I did with that cold open, but you know, it was one of the few jokes I was actually proud of from that review, so I kind of felt like I had to bring it back for the revamp, and kind of already bought the mask, so may as well put it to good use. Splatterhouse is a horror-styled hack and slasher in the same vein as God of War, including a roided-up superhuman main character, paper-thin enemies, and an interesting aesthetic. Based off an arcade series from the early 90s, the 2010 remake is an interesting game. Let's start off by giving the game a few props. It looks good. It's got a sort of soft, cartoony feel to it that works with the overjacked main character Rick and some of the environments in the game, but I think it really comes into its own when the game decides it wants to play homage to its side-scroller roots. Alright, enough wishy-washy talk about how the game looks. Let's just cut to what this game has going for it. The best thing about this game: Jim Cummings as the Terror Mask. The Terror Mask is quite honestly the best thing about this game. Cummings honestly does not give a fuck about what he has to say. I mean, I guess part of that is the mask's natural nihilistic psychopathic tendencies, but even so, Cummings just says some of these lines with such joy it's hard not to laugh. I mean, main character Rick can lose a fucking arm and the mask will just come back with something like this. Ooh, double burn for you there, Rick. I mean, that's gotta suck. You lost your arm and your date. Of course, with that being said, even the most enjoyable part of this game can get fucking annoying after a while. What with the mask shouting things like "look out" and "heads up" every time an attack comes your way, or telling that a bad guy's inside should be outside whenever they lose enough health to trigger the game's splatter kills. Which, you know, the splatter kills are fine, I guess, but there is a finite number of them. I mean, there's a limited number of gory kills in any video game, of course, but these splatter kills are usually universal across all enemies, and there are only 4 of them for your standard grunt enemies, whilst bigger, stronger mini-bosses got their own unique splatter kills. And sure, the mini-bosses get more common as you go on, but the splatter kills just gradually lose all of their punch after the first time you encountered one. The splatter kills also feel really, really disconnected from the rest of the game, because when you activate one, you are immediately taken from the combat arena you are in, and you are suddenly shoved into a pitch black room with just you, blood, and the enemy you are performing a splatter kill on, which, you know, kind of disconnects and breaks up the flow of the fighting in the game, as well as just really emphasizes how lackluster the splatter kills become after the first time you see them. I mean, as an example of a comparison, God of War has a similar sort of system. You press the circle button, you complete a quick minigame, and you are rewarded with a gory kill. The difference being, God of War doesn't take you out of the environment you are still fighting in to perform these quick kill animations. You are still in the fight and you are still in the world, and it's invested and it doesn't break up the fight. This is just... God of War came out 5 years before this. How would Splatterhouse not get this right? One of the main problems with the game is the fact that the enemies are often smaller and faster than main hero Rick, which, you know, wouldn't be a problem if his melee wasn't so overpowered. You see, when Rick punches an enemy, before you can get enough momentum with your beatdown, you either knock your target across the fucking room, or you get jumped on by half a dozen of their friends. And if they don't get thrown around like a paper boat in a storm drain from the punches, they don't stagger at all. Sure, you get a few hits in and then a recoil, but then they just straight up ignore the incoming damage and shove their fist down your goddamn nose. This problem is removed with the introduction of one of the game's numerous weapons, yes. But the downside to that is, there's no challenge once you use a weapon. Like, the weapons are fun, yes, and beating the shit out of a mini-boss with a 2x4 is fun for, I don't know, the first few minutes, but then they break and then the fun stops. And when you're using weapons on regular enemies, especially slashing weapons and the shotgun, one hit kill on anything that looks at you funny. Absolutely no fucking challenge. There are two gears in this game. There's either grinding or no challenge. But, do you want to know how the game fixes the lack of challenge presented when you use a weapon in this game? With its fucking broken, backwards ass checkpoint system. Holy shit! The fights in this game are so slow and so tedious that despite them being one after another in different areas, you expect there to be a checkpoint after every point of progression after you complete a certain objective or take out a certain number of enemies, right? Well, this game says, fuck you, you just fought 3 mini-bosses in a row? Well, that's not worth a fucking checkpoint, Sonny Jim. You're just gonna have to play that over again if you die in the next fucking room. It doesn't matter if fight sequences are finished, cutscenes are played, mini-bosses are beaten. If you die before the game says you can have a checkpoint, you are going to end up with some controller breaking rage there, Sonny Jim. The game is also really confused about what it wants to be. Like, seriously, this game is having a fucking identity crisis with the amount of genres it wants to be at once. It wants to be a hack and slasher, apart from when it wants to go back to being a side-scrolling beat-em-up, or when it decides it wants to be a platformer, with literally the heaviest character in video gaming, except maybe Fat Princess. The game's camera system is also completely fucked up. Like, that is one of the most essential things you have in a hack and slasher. How do you fucking ruin that? The game's camera will jump about all over the place after certain fights are finished, completely fucking up your sense of location from time to time. I mean, I guess it's there to help you see where you're meant to be going next, but fuck me, all it does is confuse the ever-loving crap out of me. It completely disoriented me in a fucking straight corridor. How does that happen? And on top of that, because of its bullshit, I ended up running off of fucking ledges into bottomless fuck pits to my death. And none of this is mentioning how the game's frame rate shits itself every 5 minutes, how the blood from the enemies actually covers the screen, so you have absolutely no idea where the next bad guy is going to butt rape you from, and how fucking inconsistent the rules are in this game. And the biggest fuck you with this game is when it literally says, fuck you. I am not even kidding. This fucker actually insults you every time you die. And when you die to this game's fucking broken mechanics, that's where I draw the line. The story is told on a really out-of-order sort of style, with the game opening up with Rick dying in a pool of his own blood and donning the Terror Mask before being set upon by monsters. From then on, he and the Mask just run around various different settings and try and catch up with Rick's girlfriend, Jenny, and Dr. West, the man who kidnapped her and is also a servant to a race of Lovecraftian gods called the Corrupted. And that's pretty much the story to Splatterhouse 2010. Does it sound like I wasn't interested? Guess what? It's because I wasn't. Splatterhouse 2010 is a game that, in all honesty, should have worked. Translating a beat-em-up to a hack and slasher sounds like it should have been fucking easy, especially if they're both horror-themed games, but nothing in this game works to make me enjoy it. The gameplay is tedious and repetitive when it comes to its combat, essentially just boiling down to repetitive mashing of the square button. The story didn't compel me to go forward to find out what the fuck happens to Rick and Jennifer. When it tried to be a platformer, it failed miserably, and despite it being a horror-themed hack and slasher, the gore is surprisingly tame. Splatterhouse should have been a game that worked, but it is literally killed by the sheer number of different directions this game tries to pull it. From being a hack and slasher, a platformer, a side scroller, a horror romance comedy, an homage to H.P. Lovecraft, or a dark comedy. It is literally pulled to pieces by how fiercely the different directions this game fucking wants to take it. And that's why Splatterhouse doesn't even live up to the dark rating I gave it the first time. Splatterhouse 2010 gets a revamped dark rating of 21.
Only thing you got left is your soul, and that belongs to me.
Well, that was just fucking fantastic, wasn't it? If you have a suggestion for a future review, please leave it in the comment section below. I've been Darkest101, you have been watching Darkest101 Reviews, and as always, thanks for watching, and happy fucking nightmares.